This is amazing.
You're
I'm
getting
so
me
glad
so
that I get to be
excited,
the
though.
one. I'm so glad I'm the one who gets to tell you about this. So they had this massive hoax where they all pretended to be totally serious and write all these papers. Let me look it up.
Oh, no.
Write all these papers that all the critical theorists would love just to show how like illogical they are.
Oh, man. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So before here, I'll find a couple of the best articles and I can read some of it to you. But before I do that, why don't you just kind of explain what critical theory, kind of the theory of critical theory, like what is critical theory to begin with?
Well, I actually think my understanding of it is pretty simple. It's probably more complex and goes a lot deeper in a number of ways, but from what I understand, it seems like the critical theory was developed by the Frankfurt School in Germany, and that was where Karl Marx, and also I think Hegel too,
Yeah.
were trained. And so,
Hegel was Marx's mentor, wasn't he?
right, yeah, his mentor and then collaborator as Marx came into his own. And so basically, my understanding is that critical theory views the whole world as oppressed people and their oppressors. That is the way you define things. And number one, above everything, is this fits into our last two podcasts ago really well. But everyone's defined by their group. Everyone is not just an individual who is sovereign over their own identity
Mm-hmm.
and choices, but you are the product of the groups that you belong to. And yeah, that the people who are in less successful groups are there because of injustice, and the oppressors are in their position also because of corruption and greed.
Yeah.
And so it's this very divisive way of seeing the world. And so that's where Karl Marx and Hegel came out of and developed their own theories and expounded a lot from that simple idea, and
Mm-hmm.
took it out into developing ideas for a form of government that would respond to that theory.
Hmm. Huh. Yeah. So I would say in all of what you're saying, it's almost like you just break down the world into power relations. It's about who has power and who doesn't have power. And so it's
Exactly.
not about rationality. It's not about facts. It's not about
Mm-hmm.
history, even. It's just about who has power, who doesn't have power.
Yeah.
And then breaking down, okay, this group has power. They must automatically have
Mm-hmm.
oppressed people to get that power. It's almost like a net zero, like zero sum view of humanity, that
Mm-hmm.
if one person is rising, the other person must be falling,
Yeah.
which is totally against reality. That's not how things work. As one of us rises, the rest of us rise in regards to them.
Another thing that
Yeah. Okay.
So
Yep.
one last thing that stuck out to me, I didn't mention in my first explanation, Vodi was saying that a lot of, yeah, like you were saying, a lot of logic, a lot of statistics get thrown out the door. I don't know if this was part of the original intent of critical theory, or if this is just what's happening now for people who align themselves with critical theory. But a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, statistical information, data, just isn't as important as people's personal experiences. And so
Right.
narrative replaces truth. And so people's own personal truth, or their their perception of their life experience, trumps what's actually going on in the world. So a really good present example of this is that from a lot of major news outlets, you would think that white police officers are roaming the streets of America right now, just hunting down black men. That's
Right.
kind of the narrative that is very important to people who are thinking in critical theory right now. Um, that's not true. It's
That sounds crazy.
not even close to
That
true.
It sounds crazy, but that is literally what lots of people do think. And if you think about like massive celebrities like LeBron James literally tweeting out the words, we are literally being hunted down by the cops.
Yeah.
Like that, I don't know if you saw that he had tweeted that, but it's like that's such a good picture of it doesn't I would say that's such a good picture of exactly what you're saying. So
Yeah.
yeah, go on. Sorry.
Exactly. Well, right. But so the data doesn't show that at all. And they're actually, I don't want to get into the weeds of all the statistics, but one really important one that really sticks out in my mind is that for, I think in the last year, so 2019,
2019, yeah.
I believe this is the year that the statistic is from. There, in terms of unarmed people shot by police, there were 9 black men or people. Maybe some of those were women. I think there were actually 9 black people, 19 white people. And these are categorized as unarmed shootings. However, even within those unarmed shootings, one of them I know for sure was a man who was fleeing from the police in his car. It was a what do you call that? Car chase, and he had a loaded weapon either on the seat next to him or in the glove compartment, and so that also is counted as an unarmed police shooting. Just for example. So anyway, not to get too much into that right now, but that's kind of another aspect of critical theory is that narrative and people's personal experiences and their feelings about what's happening is more important in how we proceed socially and politically, economically than statistics.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a rejection of statistics in a lot of cases. And there was, maybe you already saw this, but there was I want to say the Journal of African American Studies or something along those lines. I wish I knew exactly what it was, but it was kind of like an academic paper from the perspective of, I don't even know who wrote it, but it was saying from the perspective of the oppressed, and it was all about Black Lives Matter, it was all about race, and it basically said that here are a number of values which are white values, and some of those were like being hardworking. Some of those were just general conscientiousness, and then another one was adherence to like facts and statistics was like a Western culture value.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like at some point it's rational along the way to understand both sides of a paradox, so to speak, understand both sides of a story, but at some point you have to disengage from something like critical theory. And I think at the point that there's blatant rejection of science or blatant rejection of facts, I think that's a pretty good point to draw that line.